So I'm an expert in resurrection belief. According to Jewish burial traditions, which I'm an expert in, what I am an expert in is codicology and paleography, how we date manuscripts based on handwriting style. My expertise is what we call extra canonical gospels. I'm an expert in Roman crucifixion.
Happen to be a little bit of an armchair expert on the subject, if I do say so myself.
It's armchair expert day, guys. So there's at least a couple of us here. But yeah. Welcome everyone to my show. I'm Kip Davis. I'm a biblical scholar and an expert in Second Temple Judaism and the Dead Sea Scrolls. It's Friday, the 10th of July, and it's 2 p.m. here on the Pacific Coast. I'm joined by Vish as always. And we have friends with us today. Very exciting. Welcome back, CJ, to the channel. It's been a little while. It's nice when you're here.
Great to be here. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And I'm very happy to have on for the first time Sheng Tsai from Mindful Living, who's been doing some awesome. Oh, we need some applause here, don't we?
Thank you for having me, Dr. Davis.
Yeah, of course. Where is it? There we go. Good, right? Yeah.
Thank you.
No, yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to have you on today. I've been watching your stuff for a few months now, at least, and it's all really good. And it's I really like it because you're taking a different approach than some of the stuff that I do or some of the stuff that CJ does when it comes to counter apologetics. And you like to pick on the same people that I do, which is fun. So yeah, it's and that's honest. This is why you're here today. I've been excited to do some stuff with you, and you dove right in to this this Bayesian probability stuff that Than Christopolous and Michael Jones like to talk about over at Inspiring Philosophy. So
and Richard Carrier, right?
Oh yeah, Richard Carrier
that
as well. He's big on that. So do you want to maybe take a couple minutes, and because there's probably some people here who aren't as familiar with you and your work, do you want to take a couple minutes and just introduce yourself and what you do over on your channel?
Of course. Thank you. So I'm Sheng. I came from Taiwan. I immigrated to Canada in 2019 and just became a Canadian citizen just last year. So I had the flag there. This was for the online ceremony. I used to be a Christian, went to seminary, became a pastor and a missionary. So I had a little bit of knowledge on both Greek and Hebrew as well. I had 2 years of training in Greek and 2.5 years of Hebrew. So I am in the field. But after I deconverted, I could no longer stay in the full-time ministry. So I had to get another education so I can get some secular job.
You have
so
to go get a real job.
A real job, yeah. That's productive and good for society. So I came to Canada. I got a Master of Applied Psychology. And after that, I work in the public sector until now. So it can be like a coincidence that I'm good at statistics because I had training in social science at the graduate level. So I'm not like a PhD expert who can write textbooks in statistics. No, I just have enough training so I can read the scientific papers. I can do the quantitative and qualitative analysis myself. I can do like program evaluation and stuff like that. So more like hands-on and practical level. And Brian Blaze is another expert who has engaged, Than and Mike He is the real expert. I'm not. So just to be clear, don't have too high of expectation of me. Yeah, so I have my channel on for like since early last year. It's called Mindful Living. Hopefully people can go and check it out. It's mainly about debunking Christian stuff and religious stuff, but more I would like that channel to be more about building up the critical thinking skills and to be more educational a bit. So I made 4 videos on Bayesian apologetics, critique on Bayesian apologetics. I try to make each one a bit educational in the sense that I teach a concept of statistics that people can use in their everyday life. So hopefully that works out. Yeah, I talk too much. Back to you.
No, it's good. You're in the right place. I was going to say that I read this or I saw this in one of your recent videos where you mentioned that as part of your graduate training, you actually were challenged by your instructors to go and read studies and to find the methodological problems and errors within those studies. Yes. Which I think like that's fantastic, right? And I think certainly for our purposes, because the people that we are confronting, the people that you have confronted, Than and Trent Dougherty, are they don't have any, they don't even have any formal training, as far as I'm aware, of any kind in statistics or in probability or in reading this literature. So far and away, you may not be an expert like Brian Blaze, but you're certainly more qualified than CJ or me or Vish or anybody that we're talking about today to address those kinds of issues. I've linked your playlist to the Bayesian stuff in the description of the channel. Your channel is linked in the description. I encourage everybody, if you're not subscribed to Sheng, to do so, because your stuff, it's great. I love it, and I every opportunity I can get to have like a Canadian bro out, I think that's good. So how you doing, CJ?
And Vish.
Canadians and Vish. She's like a Canadian.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I'm good. It's great to be here. I know nothing about Bayesian. I watched some of the videos on Sheng's channel, and I understood a little bit of it. I don't know. Yeah. I can bring the Bible side. I definitely am. A lot of it's over my head, but I do think it's fascinating that the same analysis technique can basically cause Richard Carey to think Jesus was a myth, and can cause these guys to think the resurrection is proven beyond doubt. Like, that tells me that there's something weird going on here.
There's an issue. There's something going on here.
It's almost like the data in the Bayesian analysis says what you want it to say.
I don't know. I'm trying to keep an open mind, but anyway.
I think
at the very least, that's an interesting opening observation, if nothing else.
When I was thinking through having you guys together on the channel, and I pitched this to CJ, I looked at the live stream with Trent Dougherty that was in response to a lot of the things that Sheng has done, and I was like, there's an awful lot of math in this stream. So I opted to find something a little bit more my speed, CJ's speed, something for the kids in the remedial math class. So we're doing today. We're gonna look at another video, and I really wanted to set my focus on Dr. Trent Dougherty, who's I believe he's a philosopher of religion. Used to teach at Baylor University until they asked him to go away. There's a whole story behind that. I'm not going to get into. I encourage people to look it up. But suffice it to say, he's not the best person, but also has some very problematic ideas with respect to the resurrection of Jesus. So that's what we're gonna do today. I don't know. Do either of you guys have anything before we start?
His last name is pronounced as Doherty, not Doherty.
Oh, okay.
Doherty.
Okay.
Doherty.
Doherty. Yeah, that sounds better. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Oh, no problem.
So Trent Dougherty. Yeah. All right. That's good. A couple things here, I think. Well, first of all, we got a super chat from Jeremiah. Says he's a Dr. Kip expert. Good. You're the first. So that's awesome. I noticed here too.
Doctor in Kipology.
I guess so. Sheng is one of my current Hebrew students. And learning that you have a couple of years of Hebrew under your belt, Sheng. By all means, if you are interested in joining us to participate in Kiryat Brit, which is my Hebrew reading stream, you're more than welcome. I'm always looking for people to come on and read text with. So CJ would, but he's brushing up as we speak. Are you doing that right now?
Well, I didn't find a night that works for me, but I do it like on my own. I'm just working on trying to remember. Yeah.
Okay.
So what happens? You learn languages and then don't touch them for years and realize that it was not a complete waste of time, but
just mostly a waste of time.
Mostly a waste of time.
Yeah. When you teach, that's really when you learn a language is when you actually have to teach it. I find I've been teaching for a couple of years now. I used to teach before, but let it go. I mean, I hadn't taught for I think 10 or 15 years languages up until just recently, and it really is kind of amazing how much it just strengthens your own and Stevens has gifted 5 Kip Davis memberships. Thank you very much, and most appreciated. And friend of the channel, Paul G is in the house. Good to see you, Paul. So I think this is going to be a fun show. I'm excited about it. So if you guys do we want to get started with this before we dive into the video, the main video that we're going to watch, which is an appearance that Trent had on Pints with Aquinas. Either you guys familiar with this guy, Matt Fraud or Frade? I don't know.
Just from watching this episode, not before.
Yeah. No. Okay. So I think he's a pretty traditional Catholic apologist. So I've seen him kicking around a little bit before. So I haven't paid a lot of attention until I saw this one, but and learned through this video. It sounds like Trent Dougherty has since converted to Catholicism since leaving Baylor University. But before we get into that, just as a bit of an introduction to the guy, the kind of guy that we're dealing with here. I pulled one thing from the live stream that he did with Than, which sort of caught my attention. But this is the kind of guy. So if you want to play that, Vish.
Pluralism is sort of in the realm here, and that
is that the right timestamp?
It carves out for his.
I think I got 2:12. Is that right?
I saw the beginning where it just said start at the top.
Oh, okay.
Here we go.
Did a Bayesian argument against Islam, and I did the ranges. So I do like that solution. I also really like the solution of just running 2 different models for the priors as well.
Yeah.
But anyway.
And do you live in Wisconsin? Oh, I shouldn't say that. I think suppose you lived in Minnesota or in the Twin Cities, which you don't. You may not be able to publish if you publish that, because they're kind of under Sharia law now. They've got the blasphemy laws in Minnesota.
Did he just say Sharia?
Sharia.
Sharia law.
We're Canadian. Up here we have Shania law.
Shania law.
Yeah,
Exactly. That's
Shania.
exactly what I was thinking.
Let's go, girls.
Maybe that's what he meant to say. But yeah. Sharia law.
A little
It's
slip at
just like
Islamophobia
saying
when you can get it in, right?
law.
Just at every opportunity, right? So
This is so dumb. Islamophobes are so dumb.
So you might be arrested for that blog post in Minnesota.
No hegemony of Islam exists in the West. I don't give a crap where you are. That's not a thing. Christian hegemony is the system that we're under in the West. You will not be arrested for making blog posts about Islam. But hey, you're going to be really close to getting arrested in the United States for criticizing Christianity.
it could happen.
There's a task force. Remember, there's a whole edict that the president issued that is looking out for anti-Christian sentiment.
Religious persecution.
So persecuted in the West. Yeah, poor Christians.
Didn't Texas just pass a law that it's mandatory to teach Bible in the public schools?
Oh yeah.
What did they? Oh really?
Bible
what did
study,
they do?
not just like here's a historical perspective. It's like they're teaching it. Yeah.
I didn't hear this. What did they do?
Texas is basically mandatory. Has basically mandated Bible study in its classes.
Oh man!
Yeah.
So,
wow.
Yeah, good times. Good.
You're going to be watching your videos, Kip.
Yes.
I wish.
Certainly would be in the UK, right? Certainly you'd be arrested in the UK.
Oh man,
detained and questioned at least.
Yeah.
No, you wouldn't.
Look.
Sorry, my mouth is full of pizza, but no,
I don't
that's
know.
just a lie.
It just it hurts that people are this dumb. It really does. That people can be this educated while simultaneously be this silly about things in the real world. Anybody, I know I have plenty of viewers in the UK. Let me know, chat, if you're presently in the UK and under Sharia, was it Sharia law? How that's working out for you. So yeah, it's anyways, so this is Trent. As someone from the UK, please keep pretending that we're under the grip of the Taliban, so these guys don't show up here. that's
Also, as I said earlier, Sharia also means law. So when they're saying Sharia law, they're just saying law.
law.
Oh, I didn't know that.
God,
oh, awesome. All right. Well, I think we can. We can bring up the other one. It's that's it for now. So we'll look at this other video from Pints with Aquinas, which I think because I put silly titles on all my clip shows. I think the title of this particular video that we're going to watch was originally like 100% historical proof of the resurrection. This one starts right from the beginning, Vish. Sorry.
The notes both have a start.
Don't they? I mean, it says. Well, I guess okay. I'll do my notes better in the future. Yes, it's terrible. So I believe this one. I called this Trent Dougherty thinks it's still 1990. But but I believe the original title of this show was something like undeniable proof or 100% historical proof of the resurrection of Jesus, or some silly stuff like that. So
yes, the resurrection is a historical fact. That's the title of their video.
That's the title. Yes, it is a historical fact. Yeah, Tommy, my notes are as good as my maps. Listen, there's a difference between the maps that I draw on my whiteboard when I've been drinking too much, and the maps that I actually drew and published in the book, which I think are pretty good actually. So just leave me alone. I'm yes. So yeah, there's historical proof apparently for the resurrection. Okay. And since Sheng and I are armchair New Testament critics, joined by CJ, who's like an actual New Testament critic, we'll see how this goes.
I do feel pretty armchair these days.
I thought, let's talk about the resurrection, because I think a lot of Christians feel nervous when they maybe interact with a skeptic or an atheist. They're not so sure they have good reasons to think that the resurrection occurred, that maybe the resurrection is something to be believed by faith, but that's as far as we can go. And isn't that rather superstitious? Is there any kind of historic grounding? Is there any good reasons above faith to think that the resurrection occurred?
Right.
No. And thanks for coming out, everyone. Have a nice weekend.
That's it, right?
I mean, all of their attempts are just to try to legitimize a supernatural event. You cannot do that with any of the frameworks known to us. All of those things work within the natural world. So all they have is their inner feelings and the little tingly that they get in their spirit to justify it. I mean, that's what Low Bar Bill says, that the best evidence is the inner witness of the Holy Spirit. So it's your feels.
That's true.
I'm talking about Mordor on your...
He does say that.
Okay.
So if you don't mind, I'd like to preface by just addressing that concept of believing by faith. Because unfortunately, so many people out there, so many good Christians out there, think that believing by faith means believing without evidence. And that's not what that phrase means. Mm-hmm. In the tradition, to believe by faith is to accept the testimony on the basis of an authority. So there are, for lots of things that the average Christian believes, just like everywhere else in culture, there's a division. Social epistemologists call it.
Hang on a second.
You guys both did, just a sec, Vish. You guys both did. Well, Sheng, you did an MDiv, right?
Yes, I did.
And did some biblical scholarship as part of your MDiv. And CJ, you've done biblical studies. Is that a thing? We actually talked about this, I think, the first time you were here, CJ, about this this idea of faith and how to understand this concept within the New Testament.
Yeah, I've made a few videos on it recently, and I actually interviewed Teresa Morgan on my channel, who's like one of the leading world experts on what pistis actually means. That's the Greek word for faith. Yeah, so it's got a huge range of meanings, but none of them in the New Testament mean like anything like propositional belief. A lot of them are more like trustworthy, things like that. So it's less in the realm of belief and more in the realm, I mean, there is a belief, I guess, to it. Like if I trust you, I believe that you're trustworthy to some extent, but it's a little more complicated than that. So I think it is something, but I see this everywhere. Like a lot of modern readers, we just don't, because we're reading it through this Protestant lens for most of us, or maybe Catholic, but so we've really flattened what the term actually meant in antiquity, where it had more of a like relational trust kind of angle. I think that's what we talked about the first time I was on.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about this statement that it actually means putting your trust in authority?
Well, my first reaction when I heard that was, which authority? Because
Well,
if you
if
look
he's
at
Catholic,
scholarship
obviously.
today, it's there's so much diversity, right? I mean, there's no consensus on anything. And if he's Catholic, so they're going to talk about St. Aquinas,
magisterium.
Augustine, and
that's
those Catholic theology. That would be their authority. But they don't have the monopoly. The Catholic scholars don't have the monopoly. There are so many theologians of different stripes, all shapes and sizes. So when you say you have faith in authority, you're just putting trust in the authorities that you already trust. So it's how about the secular scholarship, right? Who they can do scholarship on the Bible and on history, and they don't necessarily believe in all those doctrines. So what about them? Do you treat them as authority, or because they are already they are not in the same boat or not in the same belief, then you exclude them out? So when you define authority as only people, only scholars who are already in your circle, that's not really a very persuasive or meaningful way to talk about it.
Yeah, no, it's a good point.
They would say, lean not on your own understanding.
Yeah.
And lean on the crazy stuff we come up with instead. Don't lean on your own.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Lean on what you want to be true and what you have a feeling about.
Yes.
But it's a very strong feeling, so that must be
Very
reliable.
strong.
Yeah.
I don't think sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say that I'm recalling the verse in Hebrews that talks about faith being evidence of what isn't seen and the substance of stuff that's hoped for. So it's like the text is telling you that this is like wishful thinking. You're trusting in wishful thinking. So when he's trying to intellectualize faith, I feel like the text is probably working against him, but then again, he's Roman Catholic, so the text isn't the final authority for him. It's really just the magisterium, so what are we even doing?
True.
A division of epistemic labor. So I believe that E equals MC plus squared, and presumably you believe that E equals MC plus squared.
Hang on.
It's supposed to be
So
MC squared.
I believe that E equals MC plus squared, and
MC plus squared, that's not the formula.
presumably you believe that E equals MC plus squared. Now tell me anything about what that means.
Nothing.
Like almost nothing.
No, almost nothing.
Energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. Come on.
That means nothing.
If you knew that. This is
You're leaning on your own
frustrating.
I
understanding.
accept it because people who seem smarter than me and have been accepted by people smarter than me.
Exactly. And it is perfectly acceptable, as Aquinas says explicitly, to accept some of these propositions on the basis of the fact that we have these giants, these intellectual giants in the Catholic tradition, Augustine, Anselm, Aquinas, and many great Catholic philosophers and theologians today, perfectly legitimate to accept the resurrection of Jesus as a historical fact on the basis of simply that we have all these intellectual giants who have investigated it, who know the sources, and who confidently assert that. Nothing untoward about that at all. But
I don't think that he should have used a formula from physics to compare to history and theology, because any first-year college student can test any of the equations that Einstein came up with for general or special relativity. They can test it. They do this all the time. Everyone can validate it. And they do. They don't just go, well, Einstein was really smart. It's reasonable for me to trust him just based on the fact that he was smart. That's not how that works. And this guy is saying, well, we think these guys were really smart and they're really big titans of theology. So yeah, it's just reasonable to take their word for it.
It's a rhetorical trope, though, to try to collapse, equate scientific reasoning with historiography, which is not, or with faith for that matter.
Yeah.
I don't understand this repeated tendency for them to just assume, well, we take stuff based on people's word. They take their word for it. So everyone else does that. No, in the hard sciences in specific, they test it. You do it yourself. Like, you repeat the experiments, you repeat their methodology. That's the point. You don't just take their word for it.
Well, they also hate people like me who question the things that they. So, like, Bible scholars are all full of crap. They just don't want.
Full of crap. You're all atheists.
Yeah,
you atheist skeptics.
So, I mean, it's a little bit. It's like the old days. I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember, but back in the old days, theologians used to like to preen about how theology was the queen of the sciences. You know, as if that elevates it to a place where it doesn't it somehow operates under the same rigor as the hard sciences. So I think there's this this tendency to try and elevate it in that same respect still, but you know, maybe not saying such silly things.
This isn't even theology, though. This is like, he name dropped some theologians, but most of what they're doing is not even at the level of theology.
No.
It's just
right.
Just pop apologetics.
It's just pop apologetics. So
there is an advantage or a benefit to looking into the first order evidence yourself. Just as you accept so many scientific propositions on the basis of this is what the people in the know say, likewise theologically, you can do the same thing for a host of, not just the resurrection, but a host of other things. Because in the Catholic tradition specifically, in the Christian tradition overall, we have many great intellectuals who have gotten all of this thought through very carefully, and we don't have to figure everything out for ourselves in religion any more than we do in science.
Okay, well, let's do it.
Yeah.
How do we historically show that it's at least likely?
Yeah. So two things there. There's one is likely relative to what, right? So typically when an epistemologist thinks about the concept of likelihood, they're thinking about likelihood relative to two different types of sets of propositions or information, okay? There's likely relative to our background information, like just what do you kind of know in general? And then there's likely relative to some particularly salient facts that are brought out specifically. So here's an analogy from
do you want to
literature on
pause
causation.
there for a second? I wondered, because this sounds kind of Bayesian to me, isn't it, Sheng?
Yeah, so he's going to talk about how an event in a generalized or a generic situation maybe have a very low prior probability of happening, but when certain things line up, when certain conditions are met, the probability goes up. So that's what he was. So when he was talking about the resurrection was likely, it was relative to what kind of conditions were they were in. So that's what he was getting at.
Okay. So the idea here being that I think he's going to get into that here a little bit too. But the idea being that there are circumstances and factors surrounding the event itself of Jesus that aren't necessarily directly related, which make it more likely to have happened. Is that a fair way?
Do you want me to explain it a little bit further? Because when Christian apologists, they try to use Bayesian like methods to do their apologetics, they cannot stand using a very low prior, because if we don't assume anything, what is the probability of someone rising from the dead? You know, it's very extremely low. It can't be 1 in a million, as Than Christopolous said. It has to be like 1 over like 100 billion or something if you want to talk about the whole population of humanity in history. But they don't want that to be low, so they come up with all kinds of like ifs. If God exists, right? If God wants to become incarnate, if God wants to rescue humans from their sins, if God wants to validate the incarnation by resurrection. So they have all this host of ifs, all those conditions piled on top of each other to make resurrection now feels more likely. And that's all it does. It makes you feel like it doesn't make it likely on paper when you actually do the calculation, because every one of those conditions you pile up, since they are not given, since they are not background knowledge, since you have to put it like as a conditional, if God exists, if this, if that, that would actually lower the probability, because now we are not just dealing with Jesus was resurrected. We are dealing with a conjunction of different things, which Trent will get into in a moment. But when you have a conjunction of different things, the probability of those different statements being true at the same time must be lower than each individual item, right? So Jesus was raised from the dead. So let's think about that probability for a moment. And now let's think about Jesus was raised from the dead, plus God exists, plus Jesus is God incarnate, plus God raised Jesus from the dead to validate his status as a God incarnate. It has to be lower.
Can I ask? I have a question too. Like, one of the things I never hear when I'm hearing them talk about this stuff is all the priors seem to come from within the tradition and within the canon. Like, I never hear people say like for every figure we discover from the ancient world who was also believed to have been resurrected, like, wouldn't that lower the probability? Like, what do you do with the actual, like, they never seem to get the historical, for all that they're trying to create facts. They never actually look at historical context. They just look at interior to the tradition, right? Like, if I say the emperor was believed to be raised to some extent to heaven and divinized, like, doesn't that just lower the probability that Jesus actually was?
Yeah, because they assume that Jesus is the only candidate, right? If God wants to become incarnate, then Jesus is only candidate. But if we have a host of candidates, right? They don't put that into consideration. They just think that if God wants to become human, then that must be Jesus, and that's it.
Maybe God wanted to become a different human.
Yeah.
Hinduism has entered the chat. There's so many avatars. But no, they can't accept that, and they won't accept, Roman emperors because special pleading.
Yeah. All right. He's going to give an analogy here. So let's listen to that, and then
thank you, Gordon. Love Science, for gifting 5 memberships.
Thank you, Gordon. Love Science.
So somebody strikes a match in a powder shed full of kegs of black powder, and it explodes. Okay. Now, what caused the explosion? We're tempted to say it was the lighting of the match. But if you didn't have all those powder kegs around that were open, or maybe it's better with gas or something, right? If you didn't already have that background situation of the escaped gas from the gas lines, lighting the match would have been benign. And it's the same when we're assessing likelihood of evidence. There's a sort of general background stuff that makes it a major contribution, in fact, an essential contribution. And then there's the foreground focal facts that are pulled out as particularly salient pieces of information that also make an essential contribution. So what would be the salient background information to make this likelihood assessment? Because that's where you got to start. You got to start with the background.
Do you need to pause
one of them is there a God or...
Okay.
So for this analogy, it doesn't work for resurrection. It's not comparable because we don't have the same kind of data like when we're lighting up a match explode. Right, if it's a gas leak, or if there's a lot of conditions that are met that will cause an explosion. We know those facts. We know how it works. We know the physics behind those events, those explosions, how they happen. But we don't know under what circumstances a resurrection could happen, other than God did it. So that's not comparable.
It's also like at the level of evidence, it's like finding a pile of garbage on the ground, rubble on the ground, and saying like, this is proof that somebody lit a match in a powder keg of things that exploded. Like our evidence doesn't start from the match. Our evidence starts from looking at what's lying on the ground, trying to piece it back together.
Yeah, that's good.
Real quick, there's a couple super chats. Arrow Dodger for $4.99. It's all projection. They're scared of Sharia because that's just what they want to do to the U.S. except Christianity, and they're already doing it. We've already blown through at least half of Project 2025. So it's only getting worse. And the number of people in the United States who should be caring and sounding the alarm just seem to be going, Let's see. Anana 3.14159265 on and on and on for 5 kangaroo dollars. Kip's maps or Dagon's maps?
He gets a treat. Right?
Yes.
Juan.
You can't see him. There. He's there. Do you see him? There.
Doggy.
All right, you get one more. Okay, let's go.
Okay. All right. Modern atheism.
Oh.
€2. Hi, Kip. I sent you a message on academia.
I'll be sure to look it up
That's for later.
later tonight when I'm free.
And yeah, John Gooder and smart guys already
That's
figured
it,
this stuff
right?
out. Turn your brains off, everybody. David Sinclair, a prior of 1 in a million means there's about 8,000 resurrectees walking around the streets right now.
I do want to ask Sheng about that specifically. I think we'll get through this bit here first before he gets to his 3 E's though. Because I have a question about that.
Okay.
They're not, right?
Yeah.
Because obviously the probability of a man being raised from the dead if atheism is true is pretty dang low. And if there is a God, though, it may not be more likely than not, but there's no problem for God to raise somebody from the dead. It's like super easy for God, right? What it's crazy. I see these Christians who are anti-miracle. Honestly, it's bizarre. They're like, yes, I believe there's a being who can create the entire space-time continuum ex nihilo.
But he can't raise someone from
They don't be raising people from the dead. That's crazy.
He can't
right?
turn water into
No,
wine.
that's nuts. We've got to come up with a totally different explanation for that. We got to the part, Moses' parting of the Red Sea was this weird crosswind phenomenon that happened to occur right when he needed to get through, right? So that's pretty weird. So you have to ask yourself, how likely is it that there's a God? And if you think that, even if it's 50-50, let's suppose you're like, oh man, I don't know. I'm really torn on that one. On the one hand, I feel like science has done pretty well, and these sciencey people say there's no God, which is a whole other thing to debunk. But you might think that. On the other hand, like, where did this all come from? And we've got all this amazing stuff in nature. This couldn't just be an accident. So, gosh, I don't know. I feel pulled in both directions. So maybe you say, okay, it's 50-50. Well, if it's even 50% likely that there's a God, and then you've got this guy, this Palestinian Jew, that is talking about being the son of God, having this very special relationship with Yahweh, and he appears to be working miracles. And there's, in retrospect, you look at some of the things he says that he appears to predict that he's going to die and be risen again.
Hold on a second.
Okay, well, let's.
All right. First of all, sciencey people who say that there is no God. The last time I checked, most scientists, certainly in this country and in Vish's country, all still identify as Christians, right? And still manage to do this effectively. Second, and this is always my biggest beef, especially with the so-called maximal data people like Than or Mike or the McGrews or McClatchy, is this taking for granted the text of the New Testament, the Gospels, the book of Acts, as if this is not just straightforward historical reportage, but anything even remotely close to straightforward historical reportage. I get the impression that there was always this effort to sidestep the hard work of actually demonstrating the historical veracity of the texts and what they have to say. And I get why they do it. They have to do that because it's the only way you can get to even attempting to make an historical case for the resurrection. But it's lazy, and you just can't do it. I don't know.
I find it's were you were still talking?
No, I'm done.
Yeah, what was I going to say? Yeah, I mean, one of the things I think is interesting, and I think back on, I was one of these young men once who would have been very happily on this channel, on the other channel, once upon a time. And it's like, I think you don't really often realize where you're standing. Like, you don't realize what you're standing on. And I've done a lot of stuff. I think it's really important to understand the context of modern evangelicalism and the rise of biblical inerrancy. Like, I know these guys are Catholics, but this is like, it's still the very, very type of the same moves that I saw in evangelical apologetics. So I know it's like a different perspective on inerrancy, but with a lot of these guys, it's like, why, like you kind of have to ask the question, like, why do you need this to be true? Like, why are you starting from the perspective that, you know, the Bible is true? Like, why not? You know, there are different ways to understand the tradition, but they often don't realize that they're seeing it through the lens of that, like 19th, 20th century invention of biblical inerrancy. And then they're sticking with their canon and trying to argue that's a historical book. And like, they don't have to understand like what they're even standing on, the ground they're standing on. It's like, speaking of priors, right? Like, that's what I kind of find frustrating when I watch some of this stuff. But it's like, yeah, I mean, you start with a religious belief and work backwards and try to make yourself feel smart, right? Like it's not, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
It's even more frustrating than that, because with evangelicals, you actually have something tangible to latch onto when they claim biblical inerrancy, because you can easily demonstrate scientific and historical inaccuracies in the text. But with like Roman Catholicism, their primary, like, I think bedrock is tradition. They claim to go back to the original apostles, and there's like this line of succession, and they could document all this stuff. So it doesn't really matter if the text has inaccuracies or not, because they're in the line of the tradition that they hold to be like a primacy. So you can't like engage with them rhetorically in the same way that you can with evangelicals, because if you go, yeah, this has an historical accuracy, they're like, okay, and we're still the universal church. Like, it doesn't matter, you know? So there's like a whole other set of skills. And I think probably you're going to get into some of this, Sheng, as we go on. But the tools that he's going to try to bring in to try to intellectualize this and use math and all this stuff, it's just not going to work, because that's not what they're basing their membership in the group on. And that's not what they're basing their theology on. Nobody came to Roman Catholicism because of Bayesian math. So,
yep.
Yeah. Oh, was there another super chat? Oh, let's see. Tree climb Tad for 2. My dude has Lego man hair.
It is. It totally is.
Thank you, Primordial Blog.
Wow.
100
Yeah, very generous. Thank you so much.
That is very generous. Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate
And
it.
yeah, speaking of things that, you know, do you think God can or can't? Nguyen says, does Trent think it's impossible for God to have split the moon in two? I mean, surely if you think God created everything ex nihilo, God could split the moon in half. Why not?
Yeah, like that argument just opens up every religious claim as a possible
everyone.
truth. Yeah.
I was going to say that, right? If you assume that supernatural can happen, then everything is on the table. You know, the Christian story doesn't get special treatment. It doesn't. If it elevates all the explanations, then it doesn't elevate it. At the end of the day, when you normalize all the distribution of probability, then nothing happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's where their special pleading comes in. Well, no, because our book is super special and has super special claims in it. That doesn't.
It's not super improbable. Like, you're not there yet, but you can't, the starting point, if you're even 50-50 on theism, is, okay, well, for sure that could happen. For sure that could happen. If God wanted to, you know, send a prophet into the world, and there's lots of people in the world that claim to be prophets, the only one really that's claimed to be, you know, the incarnation of Yahweh, it's certainly not out of character with God that he would send a prophet.
Hey,
we don't.
Kip, Sheng, did Jesus claim that?
We don't know that.
This is
right?
For CJ, though.
What did he claim?
CJ be in a better position to answer that.
Yahweh incarnate.
Yahweh incarnate.
No.
Mm-hmm.
No. Do we want to go down that rabbit hole? No, I think that's
probably not. Suffice it to say, though, there is, you know, there's a lot. I would say even more recently, scholarship on Jesus's theology within a Second Temple Jewish milieu, which recognized a greater complexity of the cosmic powers, and you know, fitting into that does not necessarily require that he even if he made a lot of the statements of the Gospels claim that he did, even if he equated himself with the Son of Man figure in the book of Daniel, it does not follow that he understood himself to be an incarnate figure of Yahweh.
That would be the way in, I think, the Son of Man, but otherwise.
Yeah. Error Dodger for $4.99. I used Bayesian whatever the fuck to prove that Rama built the land bridge between India and Sri Lanka.
Nice.
Metageeky Platypus Librarian for 5. Bayesian math as a basis of faith? I'd rather base my beliefs on the diagonal argument for infinities and Gödel's incompleteness theorems. None of us are math nerds.
Sadly not.
That silence, we were all like,
this one was lost.
In a room full of mathematicians, I bet that would have killed.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
To work some kind of super miracle to confirm his message as a prophet of God. That's not crazy. That's within the realm of possibility. If you're starting from that background, then you zoom in to the focal evidence. The contribution that focal evidence has to make is more like tipping the scales or taking you from something that is
Can I say something really quick?
Plausible possibility to something that...
Sorry, I was about to say something, and then we got on the did Jesus claim to be God, and I forgot. I was going to say, like, this is also the sticky theological problem that's been the theological problem for most of Christian and Hellenistic philosophy, is like, how can a God who doesn't move become a human, and like all the things, right? So like you have to assume what God is, and like, so there's a lot of things he's saying that's just like, well, we all share the same expectation of what God is, or what it would look like for somebody claimed to be God, or like, it's just very, like, again, just really collapsing this stuff down. That's all I wanted to say. Continue.
Okay, sorry, I had to go get some more water.
Actually occurred. So I think it's really important to talk about that background starting point.
Yeah.
And within the framework of formal epistemology, you have to, because there's really no such thing as just this focal evidence. The focal evidence is what it is in virtue of the background that it takes place in. So
good.
Just wanted to contextualize that.
That's helpful.
With that prolegomena having been said,
Okay, hold on.
Man, prolegomena.
I want to
that
for that one.
I know, right? Was that helpful, guys? I didn't think so. But before we move on, I did want Sheng to hear you weigh in on this idea from Than's blog post that the resurrection of Jesus, the prior probability of the resurrection of Jesus is 1 in a million. And Brian Blaze got stuck on this. You alluded to this already. You said that, you know, the number should probably be more like 1 in 100 billion. In my conversations with Than about this, he has said to me that there is a difference between statistical probability and epistemic probability or epistemological probability. And I was curious to know if you've heard anything like this, or if anybody has said something similar to you. I know you've had some back and forth with Than specifically about this, and I wondered if you could say something more about what's going on there.
So okay, I don't fully understand what they are what they mean when they talk about like Bayesian epistemology and stuff. What I think they are saying is that Bayesian analysis allows you to plug in subjective numbers into it. So there are different ways, there are different types of probabilities, right? If you think about it, there are at least, you can divide it into at least 2. So one is objective probability, which means it is what nature is. Okay, so nature says there's according to all the, if we know everything, right, there's a 50% chance of, earthquake can happen in next 10 years or something. That's like objective probability. Another one is, we can call that like epistemic probability, in the sense that what we judge to be the probability. And according to the principle, our subjective understanding of probability should always try to align with the objective one, right? I think it's common sense. We want to know as much as possible so that our subjective idea of what the probability is supposed to line up with what's objective. Okay, so but in Bayesian, so when you are talking about like 1 in 100 billion, like that's like factual information, like frequentist calculation, like based on the real world data, the objective data we have, and that's the probability we get, 1 out of 100 billion. But they are suggesting another route, which is skip over the real world data. Let's just think about the epistemic. What is your subjective take? Well, what of Jesus' resurrection? How likely do you think it is, without going into the Bible and all those relevant passages or historical data? And they will just say, well, let's do armchair thing, right? So like Trent said, the 50% chance that God exists, right? Okay, so 50%. And then Trent would add, okay, so this God may want to become incarnate to interact with humans. So let's give it 10%, all right? So 50 times 10% is 5%, and so on. And he arrived at 4.5%. So from 5% to 4.5% is another step of him saying that God will use resurrection to validate that incarnation. So that's where the resurrection comes in. So and he assigns that 90%. So 5% times 0.9 is 4.5%, right? So that's where he get it. And he made a fatal error here, because that 4.5% only gets you to God will become incarnate as somebody, and that somebody will be resurrected. It doesn't point to Jesus. So there's a huge gap there that he didn't account for. But going back to your question, I think when they are talking about epistemic probability, they are talking about subjective. What is your understanding? What is your take? What number you would like to plug in? And
see, yeah,
that's the way to get around. Yeah,
that's the way I understand it, as best as I can understand this stuff, is it's a measure of the probability, basically your own conviction that something is possible is another way of I understood it. Like if there's enough people out there that believe the background information, right, then that counts as it counts towards the prior, at least for them.
It feels like appeal to popularity.
Well, like you're basically taking, like if you take 300 or 400 years of evolution of religious doctrine and then take that and then try to plug in each piece as a necessary factor, essentially, right? Like
I think so, yeah. Bayesian statistics,
that's the
unlike traditional
Bayesian statistics is very flexible in the sense that you can plug in whatever number you want during the initial stage.
Right.
So that gives them a leeway into that high probability they end up with.
Yeah, this was my criticism of Carrier's work on this too.
Degree of belief, right? That's what I was getting at. I was trying to remember that phrase. Yes, it's degree of belief.
Treats, exactly. Okay.
This is
that's helpful.
Something that y'all had said before we went live that I think probably bears repeating is that Than and his, cadre of apologists use Bayesian analysis to try to prove that the resurrection happened or that it was likely. And Carrier used Bayesian analysis to try to prove that Jesus was fake, that he never existed. So,
I think it was when the first time I really saw this at work in Christian apologetics was when Lydia and Tim McGrew published the Blackwell Companion their article in the Blackwell Companion to Theology, and it was the very first thing that I thought of. I was like, I mean, how seriously can we take this stuff if these two different groups are using this supposedly the same models to prove like diametrically opposite things.
Is there any is there any work to be done on whether you can even apply this? Like, one thing I hear a lot of people saying is like, oh, well, historians don't know Bayesian analysis and that's the problem. It's like, well, yeah, like cancer doctors don't know historical Jesus research, but like to make the case that that's going to cure cancer, you have to come up with a reason why it actually applies. And like, if you've never studied the field, like I can't look at medicine and say, because you've never studied my field, that's why you're not curing cancer. It's like, I mean, there are a few people like that cross over, I guess, but yeah, a lot of these people don't have deep training in history. They just have, I don't know. Anyway, Carrier would be the exception, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the question that I had the last time that we kind of talked about stuff that involved Bayesian analysis. Is my very uninformed, amateur, not trained in this area assessment was like, math and statistics isn't going to tell you whether an event in history happened. Yeah. And like they try to hang it on likelihood, but that's not how historians work.
Yeah.
Like when they talk about the likelihood of things happening, they're basing it on prior evidence of things having happened that are similar or the same. And when it comes to like I think the resurrection, we don't have any prior demonstrated evidence of a resurrection happening anywhere.
Yeah, that's why Bayesian analysis may not be the best tool to use to calculate the probability, even though I don't know if there's any better alternative, just because of the sheer lack of data we have for the prior instances of resurrection. We don't have any to play with.
And an enormous amount of interpretation required to get any data set, right? Like it's two scholars can look at the Gospels and one comes away saying none of this are things Jesus said, and one of them comes away with saying the other half and the other half, and this Jesus said this and not this, and like it's not like there's that. It's just the humanities. I think it's just the wrong field. Maybe
it's just it's just the humanities. It's like that. I think too. We'll move on. But I was thinking about this relative to Vish and I have also been working through a lecture by Michael Jones on the historicity of the Exodus. And one of the things that we keep coming back to over and over again is just how complex studying history can be in terms of the varieties of factors that are affecting a particular event, or there's economics and demographics and climate and like all sorts of happenstance stuff that isn't predictable and is difficult to show as repeatable, just because the same outcome is never going to, or maybe not never, but is often frequently not going to happen as a result of similar factors, right? Like it's you're just it's I think that's where the mathematical models kind of fall short in just accounting for the enormous varieties of things that go into determining what happened and why, or I should say how things happen in history.
Yeah, another thing I want to bring up is that the bias is very much a big, huge problem in this, because when they estimate the probability of something, they are not aware of the personal biases they are bringing in, because there's no like check system. There's no system check where you can realize that the number you're plugging in is inappropriate. There's nothing you can check against. So, but there's a way that I think a helpful way is to think of an alternative scenario where a miracle happened, but that's not your religion. Now, how much probability you're going to assign to that? Well, Dr. Davis just mentioned Lydia's Blackwell paper.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the chapter that she she wrote, she says that there's like 13 witnesses to the resurrection. And if she can assign 1 in 1,000, so 0.1% as the probability of each one having hallucinations. And when I was reading that, I was like, seriously, if somebody tells you that they saw someone resurrected, you think they are 99.9% correct, that they saw somebody really risen from the dead? That the hallucination is just 0.1%?
Wow.
But if they hear that claim from some other religion, like Hinduism, right? We often hear like certain gurus are said to have been risen from the dead. And let's check, right? Let's do a check. So how much probability would you assign to that guru being resurrected, given that there are testimonies of him being raised from the dead? You wouldn't get like 0.1%, hallucination, and 99.9% is being genuine.
Right.
I mean, for the United States audience, I talked on the phone with Mitch McConnell yesterday for 20 minutes. We talked about Bayesian analysis and the resurrection and the probability that he's not actually brain dead and people lying their ass off. So
there's also a guy, I was told by one of my viewers that there's this guy from FEMA who said he teleported to a Waffle House.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Like,
nah, dude, you were just drunk.
He is alive, right? And he is telling you this in front of your face. He's a first-hand primary eyewitness testimony. So how much probability are going to assign that he's telling the truth? Not very high, right?
It's very silly. Yeah.
I've been teleported to a Waffle House at 2 a.m.
Can you add in a factor that people who make wild religious claims are often considered untrustworthy? Like, could we add that into the analysis too somewhere?
Could we? Right? It feels like that's something that perhaps should be included. So let's continue, but I just want to point out that Griff01 is doing it right, and everybody should follow their example. Yes, subscribe to Sheng's channel.
We often find ourselves teleporting to a Waffle House at darkest hour. It's true.
We don't actually have Waffle Houses here. I've never seen one. Do you guys have Waffle Houses?
I don't think I've seen one in Canada.
Yeah. No, I don't think we have them. So do you have, were there Waffle Houses in Taiwan, Sheng?
No, not really. Waffle is kind of like Western style food.
Yeah, they're yummy though. I do like them.
Yeah.
Tree Clan Tad for 5. If you've been to a Waffle House at 2 a.m., you were transported there. That's just science.
Nice. All right. Okay.
And to my Jewish friends, given your understanding of the Hebrew Bible, what's the probability that the New Testament is the real sequel? 0%.
That's pretty good. Let's press play.
I'm one of the guys that goes in for what's called the minimal facts method.
Yep.
And I learned this at the font from Gary Habermas in the class on the resurrection at Liberty University in the 90s. A lot of people don't realize how much he knows about this topic and how much he's studied it and how incisive his logic is. So the simplest...
A lot of people don't realize how much he knows. No. His apology is still in the chat.
I was going to say, where is just being Gary
if anybody
thousands of pages on something and you never provide the sources and you never substantiate your stuff, just my god,
it's thousands of pages of mostly vibes, right? Honestly, it's just a lot of vibes in
I'm one of those people.
In the work.
I don't know how much he knows.
I know.
We just don't know.
It's hard to gauge. It really is. So
sort of mnemonic device is the 3 E's. Empty,
mnemonic, not pneumonic, but yeah, sure.
Pneuma be like
tomb, early creeds, and eyewitnesses. Those 3 E's are represent 3 core facts that are believed by the majority of scholars, secular and Christian, such that those facts are very hard to make sense out of.
Kip, is that true?
No.
Oh,
no.
Okay.
It's not.
I like that he emphasized the secular too. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, this is
secular scholars.
yeah.
Well, we got to believe the empty tomb if we don't believe anything else.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
to give people a sense of this too, this is where it's difficult to gauge a lot of this stuff. There's been some work. I know there's I don't remember the gentleman's name. Apologia had him on his channel. Yeah. And remind me, Paul, of the name of the guy you've had on your channel who's done work on the breakdown of scholars who actually went and counted noses and sources and tried to provide some actual numbers to who believes what. But one of the challenging things, certainly within our field, within CJ's and my fields, is that the vast majority of people who are working in biblical studies and biblical scholarship are they're Christian or they're Jewish, by and large, of various stripes. There's not that many who are, I guess, non-confessional. They're certainly out there, but it's difficult to even quantify, I think, in many respects, the number of so-called secular scholars, unless that's just the way you're going to identify critical scholars, which I think is what what he should be doing. And maybe that is what he's doing. Maybe that's his way of identifying critical scholars, most of whom are also Christians or Jewish. It's it's I mean, we're just, for most of us, I'd like to think, for a lot of us certainly, we're just beholden, like, to the models and to the methods that we have at our disposal for arriving at conclusions about the texts and the events and the data behind them.
Yeah, didn't that list end up showing that most of the scholars were evangelical and not secular, or that if they were secular, they were just not evangelical but still Christian, and Gary just wrote them off?
Yeah.
Here we go. Super chat from Tree Clam Tad for 5.
Oh, thank
is
you.
a mnemonic device, a jackhammer that helps you remember shit.
Yeah, that's good.
And Guard is saying, isn't Dan McClellan working on that? Yeah, he does have that project where he's trying to survey, all the scholars in or at least
Consensus
as many
positions.
Yeah, consensus positions. So
I've participated in it. I don't remember if there was a breakdown on religious or faith positions, but
I thought he said there was going to be a question on whether your institution has a statement of faith, maybe.
Oh, right.
Yeah, this was it. Habermas called Dale Allison a non-believing scholar. Dale Allison, the confessing Christian. What?
Yeah.
Apart from the resurrection, the tomb was empty. The proposition that the tomb was empty is accepted almost universally. It's very difficult to find any scholar, secular or otherwise, that doesn't believe there was an empty tomb that was gone to, that was thought to be or known to be where he was buried, and he gone. He's not here, right? That is not a thing that is really doubted. And so when you say, well, where did the body go?
We don't doubt that the text claimed it.
Well, Paul doesn't think there's an empty tomb, but
I don't think
Yeah,
Paul thinks there's an
seriously.
empty tomb.
can we go a little further? It's really funny, actually.
I don't think it's
Okay.
even
Okay.
a part of the
So,
mineral
it's a cheap
facts.
trick to say, oh,
Yes.
that's not very good historiography. You have to consider what the hypotheses are and evaluate each one of those hypotheses for credibility and compare them to each other. Because when we're being good historiographers, we're thinking abductively, kind of like Sherlock Holmes did. And there's that famous line from The Sign of Four where he says, when you eliminate the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, is the truth. Okay? And so
Okay,
that's how
hold
we see
on.
the reason here.
When you eliminate the impossible, then whatever is left, even however improbable,
No matter
must
how
be the truth.
improbable.
Isn't deductive reasoning? What did he say? Abductive?
Yes,
Why do I not
He
know the
said
word
abductive, yeah.
What the heck
Yeah.
is
But even
abductive?
I would dare to suggest that a resurrection after 3 days is impossible. I think I'm on pretty solid ground saying that, given that it's never happened So I don't know. I sort of feel like again we're kind of done, aren't we? I mean, if that's the measure, I'm just kind of astonished that he would say that and then walk away going, yeah, resurrection.
Well, like, what else have you ruled out? Like, could you rule out that it's made up? It's a literary device. It's a common rhetorical trope. It's the stories were got bigger as time went on. Like, could you rule those things out and then be left with? I don't think they'd rule those things out.
Apologia says the only fact Gary attempted to quantify was the empty tomb. And that's why he can't conclude it. It's not widely accepted enough, even for Gary's low standard.
It's very, it's not high.
I actually, we have the other video here. Sheng recommended that we throw this in. So, do you want to pull up the Gary Habermas video, Vish? There we go.
Okay, here we go.
Nobody's saying that the critics are going to admit the facts, and therefore they're going to fall on their knees and trust Christ. There are always differences in interpretation of the data. That's where the difference lies. But you have the data for the facts, and then you have that when enough facts coalesce to call something historical, virtually everybody jumps in at that point for the 6 events that I call minimal facts. And by the way, contrary to much popular opinion, the empty tomb has never been one of my 6 minimal facts.
Never.
Okay. I think it's
ding, ding.
Well,
yeah, it's what he says.
I thought he learned it at the font.
But it was the 90s. It was the 90s, CJ. It was a long time ago.
Changed his mind since then.
Perhaps. So he does say it was never one of the minimal facts. I don't think that's true. I think the earliest iterations included it, but if you play a little bit of what he says next, like sort of in line with what Apologia is saying, it's interesting here what he says about it.
But it's never been one of my.
So it's got to be well evidenced. It's got to be well evidenced, and it's got to be granted by a vast majority of scholars.
That's the second, and I'm not just saying.
And what qualifies as a vast majority?
Good question. We've never put. A lot of people say things. We get emails saying, "Oh, you guys say it's got to be over 90%." I don't think I've ever said that. I don't know if you've ever said that. We don't put amounts on it, but I would say something that qualifies as vast majority of critical scholars. And the first criterion is enough evidence to call it a fact. A second one to say most scholars agree with these. And
most scholars is 50.1%.
I'd say it's much higher than that.
I mean, one time you told me vast majority would be like around 85%.
I would say.
Are you backing down from that?
I think no. I think over 80 is fair, over 85 is fair, over 90 is fair, and you're going to get different percentages depending on different facts you're talking about. If you're talking about Jesus' crucifixion, that's going to be very, very high.
Sure, but if you're saying vast majority and you're using this as a criterion, did you have any percentage in mind?
Never had a percentage, and I never did a head count. I did a head count on the empty tomb. It's not one of the 6 facts.
So hold on.
Because it's not held by the vast majority.
Doesn't put a quantity on it, except in his dissertation published paper, a magnum opus book. But yeah, never said it. Oh.
Mm-hmm.
I think Paul should have been on this stream. I think you got the wrong.
For real.
I'm the wrong guest here.
No. He's going to talk about Acts here in a minute. So,
well, I was going to say, can we listen to the part? Because the part where he said like the Romans could have produced the body is like a common apologetic talking point, and it's beyond.
Why would they do that?
That shit.
I think that's coming up here in momentarily. So maybe let's put the other video back.
So when you say vast majority.
Do you want me to play this one or the other one?
No, we won't. We can maybe get to this later. That was but that was the main one, and the part that Sheng really wanted to point out too, right? Empty tomb is not one of the minimal facts, and I guess scholars are unanimous or virtually unanimous in the sense that there's an empty tomb, given that a whole bunch of them would just say, yeah, no, there was just never a tomb. Like, that's just not. That's
Where
not
is it?
Perfect way to have an
Anyway.
empty tomb is not to use it in the first place.
That's right. Yeah. There
Never
you
let
go.
him know your next
All right.
move.
So yeah, he's going to talk
as
about
we should in
souls
other
here.
mysteries. His body was missing. There's broadly 3 categories of people involved: the early Christians, the Jewish authorities, and the Roman authorities. Okay, so would the Roman authorities have moved the body? Well, why would they have done that? What possible motive could they have had? The Christians were making themselves a real pain in the butt based on the resurrection. And you've got, letters, you got Tacitus, you got letters from Pliny. Christians were not liked, to say the least, right? And certainly in the time of Nero, you've got people's, he's turning Christians into streetlights. Even like with Pliny, he's like, oh, they're so dirty, they're so low-minded, and they get together and they talk about eating God, it's so gross. These people were not liked. Okay, so the Romans would have loved to trot out the body and say, ha ha, psych, idiots.
So not only did they not have a motivation to do it, but even if they had a...
Hold on.
I'd like to point out something about timelines here.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Pliny writes his letter to Trajan in 113, I think. It's 2nd century.
My God.
So to say that they could have gone and be like, these damn Christians are annoying, go get the body. Like,
100 years, man.
yeah. Yeah, every empty tomb story, as far as I know, I mean, yeah, I think every empty tomb story comes from after the destruction of Jerusalem. So, like, who's gonna go produce a body after the city's after the temple, like after 70?
And if it's bones by that point, how would you even know it's his? It could just be anybody's bones.
This is people have brought this up before, and it's an important point. Even in the event that you provide any sort of credibility to somebody producing a body a day or two after the death of Jesus, like there's an alarming amount of physical change that happens to a body after it dies, to the extent that they become unrecognizable. 48 hours, a body can be unrecognizable as the person who it used to be. It's how easy would it have been to confuse the corpse of Jesus for the actual Jesus? It's
they could have done Bayesian analysis on the bones. Be like, what are the
Tree
likelihood?
lamp tattoo.
What are the likelihood that
preserving
there's a
Jesus
victim?
like he's Lennon?
Yes.
Yes.
I gotta say that the Lennon mummy is pretty cool.
Is Lenin still going?
I don't know, but I
I learned about it a long time ago.
Up until at least like 15 or 20 years ago, I think I saw a documentary about the Russian techniques, mummification techniques, which are really, really good apparently. But yeah, so
Man, I gotta tell you, like, you don't have to agree with everything he did or said, but Lenin's writing on anti-Semitism is freaking amazing. It's so good. Oh my God. Okay.
Have done it. They could have presented the body.
That's right.
To squash the movement.
That's right. Because you don't have to think the book of Acts was divinely inspired to think that it's generally historically accurate. And the disciples were making a big fuss out of themselves right outside of Jerusalem.
Just hold on.
Right after the resurrection.
I know,
right after the...
You've done a lot of work on the book of Acts. You don't have to accept that it's divinely inspired to see that it's generally historically accurate.
I'm a little more on the cynical side with Acts. Like if you took a survey of Bible scholars, my hunch would be that you get the gamut. Some people think it's fairly accurate. I think it's 2nd century. And I think the whole Jerusalem thing, it's like, it's very, it just reeks of like later kind of origin stories. But yeah, I mean, I can't prove that it's not what happened. I find it very implausible.
Do you want to just maybe give us a couple of just a snapshot of a couple of the reasons why somebody might not consider the book of Acts historically reliable?
Yeah, it's tough. Like the one thing I pointed out, I think he talks about this later too. It's hard to find a way into this, right? Because it's like, if I'm a scholar looking at this, I would put it like a video I did recently, drawing on Laura Nasrallah's work. I think it makes a lot of sense as a 2nd century work. It makes a lot of sense around Hadrian's Panhellenion, which is like a revival of kind of Greek culture, and Hadrian does these tours of these cities around Greece and Asia Minor. So I think there's a lot of some crossover there. I've done work on Luke's geography as well recently. I didn't do it. This is not my work. I just made a video on it talking about other people's work. It's like lapsing into scholar mode here. Anyway, I have not published on it. But yeah, John Kloppenborg, I had drawn in his work because he shows really convincingly, I think, that Luke doesn't know anything about geography of Palestine, a little bit along the coast, but knows a lot about Greece and Asia Minor. So that's the kind of stuff you can do. You can look at how it contradicts with Paul, like the story of the Jerusalem Council contradicts Galatians, what Paul says. He didn't get his authority from Jerusalem. He says in Galatians, he got it from God. So I think there's yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of like how to do quick justice to like the historical problems, but it just makes a lot more sense as a sort of later document written as a history, quote unquote, of the movement. But it's very kind of like wishful thinking. You know, it ties Paul back into Jerusalem. It gives an explanation for why this Jewish movement would move out, and it's because, well, it was in the diaspora and the Jews didn't want it. Paul goes to the synagogues and the Jews said no, so it goes out to the Gentiles. And like, it's a very, it's a very kind of ideologically driven book. So I don't think it's very historical.
Awesome, thanks.
Is that satisfactory? I don't know. Pushback. If
that was good. I appreciated that.
Okay.
So
it also doesn't show up until the 2nd century, by the way. Like late 2nd century is the first time
in terms of citations,
like
quotations.
People who know it. Yeah.
Certainly not manuscripts.
Yeah, definitely not manuscripts.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Crucifixion. There was a lot going on there. People were converting en masse.
Whoa.
What happened?
We lost.
We lost Sheng.
Oh
no. Well, please come back, Sheng. But I guess we can continue while we wait for,
largely on the basis of preaching on the resurrection. This was one of those situations where if the Roman authorities thought they were solving a problem and executing Jesus, it just got worse. So there's nothing that would have been better for them than to bring out that body. No doubt, even if they didn't do it, they would have put bounties out, things like that, bring us the body of Jesus. And the same basically goes for the Jewish authorities. The Jewish authorities were complicit completely in the crucifixion. They had...
Excuse the hell out of you.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell he's Catholic
completely.
because he's doing the whole deicide thing,
blaming the Jews,
despite the fact that, well, unless he's a trad cath, Vatican II has intentionally tried to repudiate and minimize the amount of deicide accusations that are in the Catholic liturgy. So,
yeah. So just to provide people an historical sense here of this too, it's possible that Jewish authorities could have executed Jesus for a temple violation. That was something that was within their rights to do, and it would have happened by stoning. What they absolutely were not within the rights to do was to crucify anyone. That was strictly something that only the Romans could authorize. And the Romans had no good reason to take standing orders from the Jewish authorities in the first place. They did what they wanted when they wanted. So to suggest that there's some sort of complicity at work here, I think is a stretch. I would say at best, but the Jewish authorities were not disappointed with the fact that the Romans crucified Jesus, and might have even commended it to happen. Like, yeah, that's fine. but to suggest that they're working right alongside with Rome to make this happen is a stretch.
If the only thing you've read is the Gospels, though, that's also what you would come away with, especially if you read the
you
Gospel of John.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
Yep.
Which I'm guessing is the case with him.
Oh,
yeah. And plus, this is one of those things that they don't really think through is, oh, the Jews killed Jesus. When, if it happened, it was the Romans. And 2, Jesus is repeatedly referred to as like the lamb slain from the foundation of the world. And it was always God's plan to send Jesus to die for your sins. Well, if it was always God's plan and he was slain before the foundation of the world, then the Jews didn't do it. Also, in their theology, he came back. Who cares who killed him? The whole point is that he resurrected from the dead, right? Theologically. I still can't wrap my brain around this idea that like the Jews are eternally guilty of killing our Lord. You believe he came back. Who cares? He has power over sin and death. Why are you blaming a group of people that didn't exist back then? It's just so...
Yep.
Anyway.
Had everything to lose by having this king of the Jews come up and challenge their authority. And they would have had resources to also put out a bounty. They wouldn't have moved the body. Would the early Christians have moved the body?
Do you think that, like, let me just pick a country. Oh, yay, Sheng's back.
He's back. Oh, sorry. There we go. Yay.
Do you think that some random crank or cult leader in the British Isles would cause the king to go, oh my God, we got to put a stop to this guy? No, you think he's a crank. Do you think some random itinerant preacher in the Galilee would make the Roman authorities go, oh my God, we have to stop this guy? They don't care. He's a random dude out in the middle of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about this. Like, I was in a church once, and I was very evangelical for a while, as probably people know. And we were going to have a revival. We were determined that God was going to do a revival, and we were like praying and dancing and crying and all that stuff. And like, we went and started knocking on our neighbors' doors, and we went and I'm kind of embarrassed telling this story, but it is what it is. We were convinced. We would say things like, God is doing something. Something big is happening, and if you went and asked people around that town today, I don't think any of them would remember it. Like, it's when you tell your story and you say, we're making such a huge splash and everybody knows and it's indisputable and they didn't even like us, but we were there. It's like, it's easy to tell that story about yourself, but like, who else is telling that story about you? That's kind of where you have to pull apart a little bit. Like, did you really make that much of a splash? Was it really that big of a deal? I don't know.
Yeah. I'm glad you're back, Sheng.
Yeah, I had something wrong with my computer. I had to restart it.
Oh dear. Okay. Well, it's good. That's it's good that you came back. We were very concerned.
Yeah, this is one of those things like Griff saying, I don't understand some Christians hating the Jews for killing Jesus. According to their faith, Jesus had to die to bring humanity back to God, and blaming the Jews doesn't follow logic. It doesn't have to follow logic. They just want an excuse to hate Jews. And if all you have is the Christian New Testament, it is very anti-Jewish. Sometimes it's straight up anti-Semitic, but a lot of times it's just anti-Jewish or anti-Judaic. And they're just the perennial villains of the story because, like, oh, you were supposed to be your Messiah and you don't believe any, you won't convert to our religion, but we're the better version of yours. Blah, blah, blah. It's just like being salty that we won't convert. So, okay. Shall we resume?
Yes.
Okay.
Slightly more probable than the other two, right? It's less obviously contradictory in terms of motives. But who would have done it within the Christian community, and would they have been able to do that long term? Okay, so Jesus's tomb became a place of worship very early. We know that, and the early Christian community was very hierarchical. This is often missed by
very
people. When you look
early,
at the
like Queen
narrative
Helena?
about the
He means
Constantine's mother.
Right.
Yeah.
That's 4th century, I think.
Yeah.
350 years later. It's yeah. I mean, maybe earlier than that, but even then, like, how far back can we actually track any of this? It's just we can't do it.
Jews were expelled from the city. Bar Kokhba
Yep.
revolts.
Paul
There
loves
we
your
go.
title.
Yeah. What did he say?
Oh,
I
he
missed
says
that.
Trent still thinks
Trent
it's
still
1990 on
thinks
the video file. He thinks that's funny.
That's true.
He learned he learned stuff from the font.
From
and
the
got it straight
font.
from Gary Habermas
In the
who
90s.
Doesn't
Yes.
agree.
Man, you got to drink from a better font.
Seriously.
Yes.
Council of Jerusalem, early in Acts, when there's two things that are going on. They're replacing Judas as an apostle. They've got to have a new apostle. And they're like, it has to be somebody who's been there from the beginning. It has to be somebody who saw Jesus before. And so there's these criteria for involvement. Then Paul comes before the Council of Jerusalem, and they're like, you've been preaching Jesus and the resurrection without authorization. Peter speaks up for him, and
Yeah, I was going to say, Paul wasn't there at the beginning, and he didn't actually know Jesus. He said he saw a vision, which I don't think should count, but I'm not an apostle, so my opinion doesn't go very far.
Yeah, the question of whether Paul should be an apostle. Yeah, and this is the contradiction between Acts 15 and Galatians, because Paul says in Galatians, "I didn't get my gospel for nobody gave me permission." And he's like, "I didn't go to Jerusalem." He says, "I eventually went to Jerusalem. Before that, I didn't. Like, I'm not lying. I didn't go to Jerusalem." And I was like,
"Yeah,
Paul gets his authority from Jerusalem." Like, what's the one thing he says? I didn't get my authority from Jerusalem.
He's like, "I got it directly from the source."
Yeah,
from the font.
From the font.
From the font. That's right.
The heavenly visions
is included given conditions, right? So people skip over this all the time, but the Council of Jerusalem passage in Acts shows there was a real structure there, a real authority structure. In fact, as a young Protestant searching about the foundations of Catholicism, I was shocked. I had read that passage numerous times, but I had blazed right through it because there was nothing in there that served my purposes for evangelism. But when I was going back through the scriptures with a different lens, thinking about what was the structure of the early church? Were there?
And why did he pick the Roman Patriarchate and not one of the other four?
He was
I know that's deep lore, but that's another thing Protestants don't realize. There's not just Catholic and Protestant. There were 5 patriarchates, and Rome was only one of those 5. And then they also don't really care about the Eastern Orthodox Church at all. So it's just funny.
I actually have a question on this whole thing that I want to ask Kip, because I've been thinking a lot about this lately in terms of like what we see. So I argued that Acts 15, the structure of it and the type of decree that the Jerusalem Council gives seems very in line with what I see a lot in Asia Minor, from both civic inscriptions and from like koina of like there's the imperial cult has a koina, like things they give out these kind of declarations, and a declaration often begins with, in Greek, the word edoxen humin, like it seems good to us, which could translate to like we resolved it. So anyway, Acts 15 has the structure of a council resolution from an ecclesia, but I don't know of anything like that in the Levant. Like that seems to be a very Greece and Asia Minor type body. I know you see elements of these in like is it first and second Maccabees? I think Josephus has some of this kind of stuff, but it really isn't the type of body that I could imagine. But tell me if I'm wrong. I'm glad I have you here to ask you.
No, it's not. I'd have to go and look. It's not off the top of my head, though. It's not a phrase that seems particularly Second Temple Jewish. Something that like there are certainly texts that within the scrolls you might expect to see something like that. Like I'm thinking of
did they give decrees? Like that's
the halakhic letter is sort of similar, but yeah, no, I don't as far I don't know offhand. If they did, we don't have any left, which is possible. But yeah, no, that's interesting. I it's something for me to look into, that's for sure.
Hierarchies, were there roles? Well, then that jumps off the page at you now, because James speaks, and then he calls Peter, and you can sort of see him backing up, and Peter comes in. Peter says how it is, right? Peter makes the judgment, and Paul is coming in, cap in hand, and they decide, this is, you can't, okay, we now allow you to preach the gospel, but don't be doing this and do be doing that, right? And Paul doesn't argue about it. He just does it. Peter's in charge, and Paul had to come before that council and get approved. So which Christians would have stolen the Bible?
And yet Paul says that he didn't do that. So who do I believe?
That's what he says, right? Yeah. Something, I don't know about you guys, but one of the things that I kind of like about this video is watching Matt Fradd's reactions.
I was just thinking that
because
too.
Were you?
Yeah,
Especially as he goes on here, it's like more and more. I'm watching this guy going, how much is he buying? Is he buying this stuff?
You're saying a lot of stuff here.
Yeah.
Yep. Those are things that he's saying.
This is a great choice of my podcast bookers. I'm gonna have a talk with him after the show.
Ooh.
Body, and then what would have happened? Well, it wouldn't have been the apostles or the disciples themselves. Most of them came to a very bad end, right? People might lie, but they're typically not going to. They'll die for a falsehood.
So,
True believers will die.
Oh my God, this crap again.
I'm trying to figure out how he's connecting that, because first he says it couldn't have been talking about stealing the body. Couldn't have been the disciples because they came to a bad end, as in they were all martyred or executed. If that's true, what the hell does that have to do with whether or not they stole the body of Jesus? I don't know. Does that make any sense to either of you guys? I don't follow how
they are getting that is that if they stole the body of Jesus, they knew it was a fraud, and they wouldn't die for the lies that they were spreading. Yeah. But it's always like their trump card, like martyrdom, like they pull out this trump card and they think they win. It's not that simple, right? Remember that they were talking about Tacitus or Pliny. What were their qualms? What about Christians they didn't like? It wasn't because Christians believed somebody rose from the dead. It was because the Christians were not worshiping the Caesar. They were not participating in the rituals that the Roman citizens were supposed to be participating in. That's what they were having difficulties with. Not that they believed somebody rose from the dead. So even if they were caught and stuff, they are not going to say that. It's just. Let me put it this way: the reason why they are persecuted is not only because of Jesus' resurrection, right? So if you're going to say martyrdom proves that their belief in resurrection was genuine, that means you have to show that's exactly reason that they were persecuted. Yeah. But they could be persecuted for many reasons, right? Yes. No Christian would say that they were persecuted because they say Jesus fed the 5,000 or Jesus walked on the water. Right? There's so many claims in Christianity, but they have to pick the resurrection because they want that to be true. So they just plug that in.
It's an excellent point, right? And something I often come back to this when it comes to the story of the martyrdom of James from Josephus, not executed for. As far as Josephus is concerned, not executed for his theology at all. Executed because the high priest was trying to make an example of somebody, right? Like there's so many reasons why executions can occur that we're not privy to these at all. Also,
I think that's. Sorry, keep going.
I was just going to say the Romans were also famous for if they were getting ready to kill you, like they were famous for giving you the option, right, of changing your position or having a say in whether or not they were going to kill you. I'm being sarcastic here, but it's.
Well, Pliny does say. I think Pliny says he tortured them.
He does, though.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah,
but
some of them did recant.
It is such a naive perspective to have of the whole situation. It really is. Sorry, CJ, you were
being convinced of
that's
something. Cool. And dying for what you think is true doesn't make the thing true. Like this is simple logic.
Yeah,
because they don't want to run with that. I know they don't. there's a lot of other religions and cults and things that have committed acts of terror or, killing themselves and others. And there's no Christian on the planet that would go, oh yeah, that makes Aum Shinrikyo's like cult beliefs true. That doesn't follow. Suicide bombers, it doesn't make their religion true. But yet in this one specific case, special pleading, these people dying makes their religion true.
I was just going to point out too that a lot of the scholarship that's been done on the question of persecution by people like Candida Moss, the myth of persecution, Paula Fredrickson's talked about this too. Probably others I'm forgetting, but yeah, I mean there certainly were occasionally little bursts of persecution, but it wasn't always a widespread phenomenon. And I was going to say, I think in terms of the disciples dying for their faith, James is probably the best attested because Josephus says it. Peter and Paul, I think the first account is First Clement in probably the 90s maybe, and I don't know of anybody before that. So I don't know that we have super good, I mean, unless you take Acts to be, and then it tells you about Stephen or something, but even that's not the disciples dying for their faith. So it's not really, and then you bring that, I was like, where the heck is that coming from? And then you bring those traditions. I'm in the wrong video. You bring those traditions like through the 2nd century to when like the obsession of being persecuted and stories about persecution and like persecution of Polycarp is just like people are wild about these kind of stories. People want to be persecuted. People go looking for it. Like, so it's really hard to look back through a tradition cultivated by people like this and get a sense of what was the actual truth about how persecuted they were, whether or not they died for their faith, and indeed whether or not they died for the belief that Jesus was raised from the dead, because there's a lot of other causes people died for in the 1st and 2nd centuries.
Yes.
Yeah, Chrissy Hansen wrote a paper about First Clement.
Man, if you guys haven't read Chrissy's paper, yeah, no, it's really good. Chrissy,
did you say first or second Clement?
First Clement.
First Clement.
Chrissy makes the argument that that Christians were actually murdering each other.
Oh yeah, right. I have heard this.
In the 1st century. So
Christians
it's a neat
fighting.
So surprised.
Yeah, seriously. They've always agreed on everything. Remember, the Holy Spirit brings all things to their remembrance. They don't even need a teacher.
All right, press play.
As martyrs for a falsehood, but they're not going to allow themselves to be tortured for something they know is false.
Right.
That's not human nature. That's not plausible. So you've got to really dig. Okay, well maybe it was some random grave robbers who somehow had never heard of this Jesus guy.
Well, and also aren't there Roman guards stationed?
Yeah, there's Roman guards there. So where did they go?
How are the Christians even?
How did you?
To take them?
Yeah, you'd have to picture the.
Are they drinking martinis, or is he just drinking water out of a martini?
No, they're drinking martinis.
They made a big deal of it at the start.
Yeah, they did. And Trent's got this weird thing about picking up his martini and drinking it with 2 hands. It's I clipped all those.
He doesn't want to spill it on his suit though.
That's true. Yeah. I clipped all those out because he picks it up and he stops speaking and then he goes and then he like carefully puts it back down. So I was like, I just don't need all that.
Next time I live stream, I want a martini in the mail before I live stream with you guys.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Also, I don't really think that this guy would appreciate me bringing up the history of his own church and the Inquisition, because I happen to be studying a case right now where the guy went into the torture chamber and was absolutely not budging on his belief in Judaism, despite how many turns of the cord they gave him and how much they waterboarded him. Like, it was jug after jug after jug of water that they waterboarded this guy with, and he wasn't budging. Judaism confirmed, I guess.
I'm not going to say nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
Well, I had no idea they were waterboarding back in the.
Oh yeah, they absolutely were. Yeah, they would stick a cloth halfway down your throat and just dump water.
Yikes!
All over it.
See here, I thought the Americans invented it. Wow.
Nope. Turns out we were actually not the innovators of that particular enhanced interrogation technique.
Right. Roman guards, like the guards of the swamp castle in Monty Python, right? He's like, don't let anybody out of this room. Got it? Right. You are not to enter this room. No. Nobody comes out. It's just hilarious. That's what the Roman guards would have to be like for some Christians to waltz in and take the body. You have to have a conjunction of events to occur,
All right.
you'd have to
Hold
have
on
some
a
Christians
sec.
that would somehow get the idea.
Did you have something to say, CJ, about the Roman guards?
I don't, but I could. No, the one thing I remember actually reading the Matthew story at some point before my deconstruction, but like reading it and being like, wait, like it just hit me like that. Let's put guards there so that the disciples don't say somebody came and stole his body. And I was like, I just kind of sat with it. I was like, why first of all, why would some eyewitness know that they're saying this and having this reasoning? But like, it's like, oh, that actually makes me think that this is the legend being added to, like, oh yeah, and somebody's going to say that somebody came to steal his body. Let's add the story about the guards so you know it's impossible.
It just it's interesting how on this side of things, especially reading through the Gospels again, just how much in particular that part of the story, the empty tomb story, feels like a cover for a problem in the early part of Christian theology. But he's going to start talking now about what's it called?
Conjunction.
Yeah, that's it. The conjunction.
Dwindling probability.
Dwindling probabilities and conjunction of events.
Surely someone's written or at least spitballed about the potential of let's say Jesus had a true believer. Maybe it was an apostle, maybe it was just some random follower. What if they took the body?
Just like all on their own, right?
They just did it. And
didn't tell anybody.
Maybe it was to preserve it, maybe whatever reason. And then because of that incident, for whatever the motivation was, the legend of a resurrection or something else took off. Has anybody discussed that or thought about?
I think we talked about this last time I was on, but I don't think the empty tomb is a very commonly, like, I don't think a lot of scholars hold the empty tomb, contrary to what Gary said. I think a lot of people would just say we don't know. And then I don't think Paul believes in an empty tomb. Like, I think Paul believes in resurrection. So I'm not sure that, like, even from what we get with Paul being the earliest testimonies, I'm not sure that anybody would care about stealing a body because they're not worried about an empty tomb. You know, that's like looking at a late first century literary invention and then trying to be like, let's imagine this was, go ahead.
I meant to clarify my personal theory, like personal hypothesis, is that Jesus was probably left up on the cross for a while and then just put in a mass grave, like was the common practice. And that person, whoever they might have been, was like, oh, that's not a fitting way to bury this guy. That's shameful. So from the mass pit, they took the body and not from a tomb. But there's obviously
and then paraded him around like at Weekend at Bernie's.
Weekend at Bernie's.
Right.
That's what Paul saw.
So
he was on a 3-day bender and
See, something that I'm used about, I actually think this was on one of Apologia's videos. In my opinion, a more credible approach to the empty tomb, if you're going to hold to that as an historical reality, is that if, as the Gospels are to be believed, Jesus was estranged from his family, that's not something I think is true in reality. But if you're committed to that, then the people who would have had the first access to the body, if that was the case, would be his family members. They would, what's to say they didn't just take the body and go back to like Galilee or outside of the city with it without, all of Jesus' buddies knowing about it, whom they don't like anyway.
Family ossuary.
Right? Yeah. So I mean, there's many ways around this without going, it's impossible. I mean, how could it? Yeah. So, all right, let's learn about the conjunction of events and the problem of dwindling probabilities.
Okay.
They would have to get past the Roman guards. They would have to continue to persist in this myth throughout the persecution of the church, and that the probability of a conjunction is the probability of the product of its conjuncts. Okay, if they're independent, the probability of A and B and C is the probability of A times B times C, and that shrinks fast. It's called the problem of dwindling probabilities. So let's take 4 propositions, all of which are pretty likely, 0.9, And let's say they're essentially independent. So what's the probability of their conjunction? 0.9 times 0.9 times 0.9 times 0.9. 0.9 times 0.9 is 0.72. 0.72 times 0.9 is like 0.63-ish. 0.63 times 0.9 is 0.54-ish.
come from?
So you can take 4 propositions.
What's that?
Where did 0.9
where do you
come
get 0.9 from?
That's. Do you know, Sheng, where 0.9 comes from?
She's saying that if we have 4 propositions, each having 90% of probability being true,
okay.
So that's where 0.9 come from.
Okay. So each of these is determined to have a 90% probability of being true.
Yes.
Okay. Got it.
Okay, hang on. Your mind for $4.99. I had a 20-minute phone call with the resurrected Christ. I can tell you he's doing well. He sounded healthy. Oh, that meme. That format is already just blown up on social media. It's so funny. It's so funny.
That's awesome.
You were like, oh, I talked to Mitch McConnell on the phone last night for 20 minutes. We talked about the Bene Gesserit breeding program and the Kwisatz Haderach. Like, just people.
Which are very likely, and their conjunction is barely more probable than not. Okay? It's called the problem of dwindling probabilities. And any conspiracy theory has this problem because you've got to have you've got a conjunction of events, all of which had to occur. And we're not even starting out with events that are initially very probable. We're talking about a conjunction of a sequence of events that are all already pretty improbable. And so the probability of their conjunction being the probability of the product of their conjuncts is going to be vanishingly small. So the sort of conspiracy hypothesis of, somebody stole the body is really, it's a tough row to hoe.
Okay.
Very tough row to hoe. So that's first, so picture an E, 3 prongs.
Okay.
Empty
Pause
tin,
there for
right?
a second.
Very.
Let's just.
I don't know. Do you have anything to add to that, Sheng?
I do. So what he was saying in principle is correct in the sense that if we have different claims, you want to stack them up and that you want to say that all of them are true, then you have to, and they are independent, then you multiply them. But they don't have to be independent, right? It could, if you assume A is true, then B's probability can be raised just because A is true, right? So that's, in that case, then they won't be independent. They'll be dependent on each other. But the big picture is that the picture of what I want to say in this segment is that skeptics don't just have one theory of what happened, right? Even if we are going with the disciples stole the body, there are a lot of different possibilities of what could happen next, right? You're talking about Roman guard. Maybe there weren't any Roman guards, right? He wanted to talk about martyrdom. Maybe there wasn't any martyrdom, right? In Acts, after the Jews threatened the apostles for, telling them not to preach Jesus, then the majority of the apostles just vanished. We only left with James, John, not James, John and Peter, and then James was killed shortly afterwards.
That's right.
But where are the rest? Maybe because they knew they were teaching falsehood, they weren't sure that Jesus was resurrected. You're just going along with the vibe, so they backed away. We don't know that because the church wouldn't tell us the truth, right? If they're saying that those disciples back away, it's bad for their evangelism, so they didn't record those facts down. That's a possibility, right? So when skeptics are thinking about this issue of how can the resurrection story spread, how did this happen, what happened to the body, there are tons of different theories. It's not just one theory. You can have one hypothesis. Is okay, maybe somebody stole the body. It doesn't have to be a disciple. It could be Joseph of Arimathea. It could be a tomb raider. It could be just in a mass grave and unrecognizable, right? There's so many different factors where you cannot locate the body. And then after that, you have so many different ways that can be played out. So it's not just one hypothesis with 4 claims needing all of them to be true. It's a lot of hundreds or thousands of combinations. And that will actually, if you add them together, that's actually a very high probability, higher than the actual resurrection would have occurred.
So like each of these things would have their own probability. Like the empty tomb, you could assign a probability to whether or not there was an empty tomb, and it wouldn't be 90%, right? Like it would be.
That would probably. It feels like that would be really low. I would think. I don't know.
I'm just guessing, but I would guess if you surveyed scholarship, it would be like maybe they'd see like a 40% or 30% chance.
It's okay, CJ. He's these. Trent's just guessing too. Yeah, absolutely. It's,
got this from the font from Gary Habermas himself.
That's right. That's right. So
let's accept that then.
Yeah.
Right. Well, Gary says the empty tomb isn't one of them. So yeah.
True. But it's also the only one that he has any hard data for some reason.
Yeah. Then the second one is eyewitnesses. So the second and third prongs of the E involve a little bit of biblical criticism. Okay. In the scriptures, we're told that there were lots of eyewitnesses. There's one passage that's about 500 witnesses, right? But certainly even apart from that, and again, you don't treat the gospels as divinely inspired at all. They're just telling their story. You can believe there's all kinds of errors in there, whatever you want. But clearly
all the evangelicals listening to that.
Both of you guys, I know, have read the gospels before. Eyewitnesses. Is that the best way to describe what those texts are?
No. CJ, you may probably know more about this than me.
Yeah, we're on the same page.
I mean, I think like they're all anonymous.
Yes.
At best, you've got Luke, who talks about receiving stuff from eyewitnesses and then organizing.
He could be bluffing too, right? You don't know.
It's a common enough historical trope. Yeah, like the closest you get, like Richard Bauckham's famous thing with Jesus and the eyewitnesses. But like, contrary to what a lot of people think, it doesn't say that the Gospels were eyewitnesses. It's just basically trying to understand how they could be, I guess, if I'm not selling them short. So yeah, I mean, you can kind of say maybe there's eyewitnesses lurking in the back somewhere, but not a lot of people think the Gospels themselves were written by eyewitnesses. And the traditions all come later. The traditions that tie them to, a connection with Mark, was Peter's interpreter or something like that, as Papias. Like that's much later.
That's late first century, I think, right? Papias.
Yeah, it's possibly second century.
Oh, okay.
It's tough. It's all tough. Yeah, it's mediated like through Eusebius and.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Good.
Oh, there is a couple of super chats here.
Oh, okay.
I missed one from Metageeky Platypus. If only Dora was there to say, "Swipe or no swiping."
No swiping.
No swiping the body.
Ouch.
Tree climb tab for 2. This is the worst.
So,
central part of the narrative is they saw Jesus, they touched him, they hung out with him, even in ways that are kind of embarrassing, right? Like at the very initial part of the resurrection narrative, they don't even recognize it's him.
Yeah.
Right? And it's women who come to the tomb first.
Hold on a second.
I hate this criterion of embarrassment.
That's nonsense. But I think that was your video this last week, Sheng, right? Where you explored this idea of what on earth, what happened to the fish that was consumed by the resurrected body of Jesus. I don't know. I was that was interesting to me because it's not something that I've spent much time considering or contemplating. But I mean, these are the sorts of things, right? That these are the sorts of problems and issues that you encounter the minute you start to work out the physics of what a resurrected body means. I don't know. Do you want to say something about that? I thought it was really good.
So a lot of Christians, when they are talking about resurrection, they are just talking about like a dead body coming back to life after 3 days. But it's not just that. It's more than that. It's about a kind of a new body where the wounds not only healed, but they can also pass through solid objects. How does that work? It's not just teleportation to a Waffle House, right? You teleport yourself into a locked room where your body has to pass through the wall or the door or the ceiling or the floor. And then if he was eating fish before, what happened to the fish? Did they drop to the floor? I don't, there's a lot of difficult issues with that. It just, at some point, it just becomes so fanciful or fantastic that it just doesn't ring like it's telling the truth. I mean, even if, so we're talking about gospel authorship, right? Even if those gospels were written by the disciples who were actually eyewitnesses, if they tell you stories like that, would you believe it? Like, I wouldn't, right? I mean, do you believe somebody tell you in front of your face that they teleported to Waffle House? Would you believe him? I wouldn't. Maybe some people would, but I wouldn't.
Maybe.
Right?
I mean, if you're not the president of the United States, you might not believe him. So, but I think people really need to go and watch. I mean, to go and watch all of the videos, all of Sheng's videos, but especially the ones in the Bayesian series. But in the last one, I actually had to rewind it and watch it a couple times because you included a little animation in there of Jesus walking through the wall into the room with the disciples, and the fish just kind of falling out of them as they hit the wall, right? Going into the room.
Yeah.
It's just,
the fish wasn't a resurrection fish, right? You can expect the fish can pass through solid walls, right?
These are the issues. These are the problems, right? That we're stuck with.
They never. The whole like resurrection body thing, and we talked about this last time too, but Paul's resurrection body, and the question of like Paul doesn't like physical bodies very much. Even the Gospels, Jesus' resurrection body, as you're saying, is obviously porous, somewhere in between physicality and spiritual, and like it's just
and pull
up something.
Okay, while you're looking for that, hey, biblical scholars, says Tree Clam Tad, who normally prepared bodies for burial in the Levant in this era, and that would conventionally be women, doing the work that would ordinarily make a Jewish man unclean. So, this is why it only makes sense that the women were there at the crack of dawn to dress the body, if it indeed was in it.
I played around with this idea on my channel a little bit too, agreeing with that, but also trying to think through like in terms of like how Greco-Roman readers would have read this, and like women were often involved in like the whole thing about like women's testimony wasn't allowed in court. Like, who the hell says this is a court case? Like, this is
right.
It's like a modern apologetic thing. Like women, or like you go to the Oracle of Delphi, you read the Sibylline oracles. It's a female oracle. Like it's so always. Like women were involved. Plus, Temple of Isis had female priestesses who had like. So it's excuse me. Yeah, the idea that like women wouldn't be believed with miraculous things. Like all over the Greco-Roman world, women were involved in the miraculous. So. Problem is, you don't believe women. That was my video.
Yeah.
Modern even.
Yes. This is something else. Like Shai Cohen wrote a pretty good book about like part of this, and I think it's from the Maccabees to the Mishnah. But it was talking about how in this period of time, women actually did get to testify in court. It's just that you needed two of them to back up each other's testimony because one of them by themselves wasn't thought to be credible.
Well, I think there's more than one in at least one gospel, isn't there?
It's like at least 2 or 3. But again, that's not a case. They're not in a court. They're not standing before the Sanhedrin or a council of rabbis or whatever. So this idea of women's testimony wasn't believed in a court.
And you need 3rd century, right? The Mishnah. But
also it's like
true,
pulling on later, traditions.
I think Josephus
approximately that time. Yeah, it's much later, and it's like. You can't, they're just trying to retcon all this other stuff in there. And it's like, again, this isn't a court. These were just they were just allegedly talking to other people. This wasn't a court setting. So it's not like they have to give testimony that's reliable. This is, it tells you more about the sexism.
Well, it says a lot.
Guys spreading it.
Yeah, like it's super sexist. It also just says a lot about what they think they're doing. Like what apologists think they're doing is like they're treating it like it's a court case. Like it's not. These are like ancient religious texts, highly fanciful, highly edited, so to look back at these and be like, let's just assess the evidence like we're standing before a judge, it's, I don't know, it's just so silly.
It's because apologists love lawyers almost as much as they love philosophers for reasons, right?
Somebody in one of my recent videos was talking about the allegations that I'm making. Like, even if I accept your allegations, like, these are not allegations, dude.
Allegations? What are you talking about allegations?
I'm gonna make some allegations against the Bible.
Okay.
God.
That's
all right. Press play.
So ridiculous.
Testimony meant nothing to, to that early Middle Eastern milieu. There's all sorts of these sort of embarrassments in the narrative.
Right. Like if I'm writing a story to try to convince people of a falsehood, namely that this Messiah rose from the dead, I'm certainly not going to write a story where I didn't recognize it was him.
Right. That's just weird in general. That's weird in general. Because, I mean, even as a Christian, you go, well, why the hell didn't they recognize it? What happened?
Is that, now this is that's not, this is weird to these guys. Right. But I don't know. This is probably within, I would expect it's similar within Greco-Roman literature, but certainly within Jewish literature, within the biblical literature, like the Old Testament literature, there's a trope about the unrecognized divine figure. Like when the patriarchs encounter divine messengers, they very often don't recognize them as being anything other than the text makes a point of showing that that's part of the trope of divinity is that they're kind of shadowy, that they're not obviously who they say they are, or who the text is portraying them as. So yeah, weird to these guys because they don't read the fucking text. They don't understand how this works as literature. It's so
same in Greco-Roman literature too. The famous the story of Paul and Barnabas being mistaken for Zeus and Hermes, and Phrygia somewhere. That's an earlier like story from the region, that Zeus and Hermes came down and nobody recognized them except for this old couple who like took care of them, basically. So it's a very common trope too.
You even have it implied, right, in Jesus's is a part of a parable where he says, when you've entertained these people, you've entertained me, right? Like you've looked after me.
Angels unaware, you might be.
And angels unaware, it's not explicit, but it's certainly, I don't think that's building off of this idea, right? Like there's divine beings all around us. We just have no idea that they're out there. So
I'm trying to remember. There's a famous. It's from the Richard C. Miller book. There's a story about one of the emperors being divinized and being with somebody on the road, but I don't remember if the trope of like not recognizing them is in that one. I need to look it up. But the trope of like the road to Emmaus and walking with the emperor on the road is like there's those kind of tropes too. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. But no, this is just seriously, Trent. Read your Bible.
And other things, but it just comes down, like you're saying, like it just comes down to a total ignorance of the literature and an unwillingness to actually understand the context these things were written in, because that would actually hurt your priors. Like it would hurt you. Like why not just take a little bit of time and read some other stuff
for real?
Like go read Ovid's Metamorphoses or something and tell me everything still looks unique in the Gospels.
Yeah. Dr. Clark. 4-5, seems like we can't really know much history. How much history versus fiction is there, especially when shaped for theological purposes? Thoughts?
In terms of the Gospels themselves,
I agree with
yeah, absolutely. And it's a point of frustration for me, because I do think that there's historical grounding to a lot of things that happen in the text. I just have no way to access that, right? Or to even quantify or show that that's the case. But
so
I think yeah, go ahead.
While you three were talking, I was looking up something because Sheng, something you said about like, hey, what happened to the fish that Jesus ate?
Yeah.
I thought about the story where Jesus was talking about hand washing and was like, the food that you're eating doesn't become unclean, you just poop it out, it's fine. And so there was that, but then also I was like, where am I thinking of resurrected bodies? And obviously, you know, there's stuff in there about like, oh, you're going to be like the angels, they're not given in marriage, blah 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 blah. Okay, it's like that's not what I was thinking of. Apparently, 1 Corinthians 15 is where my brain was going, where it's talking about like, oh, there's one type of flesh for humans, there's one for animals, there's one for fish, one for birds, and if you are sown, it's like a seed where it has to die first, and that's what, you know, gives birth to the rest of the plant. And it's like, oh, you're sown imperfect and you're raised perfect. And the end of the chapter says, I say this, brothers, that flesh and blood can't inherit the kingdom of God, nor does the perishable inherit the imperishable. And then, you know, I tell you a mystery, well, we won't all sleep, da da da. So I'm like, wait, so if Jesus had a perfect body, because he, in this chapter, is called the first fruits of the dead.
Mm-hmm.
So however he, I guess, looked and appeared and functioned is how other people will when they're resurrected. He was eating, he could walk through walls, but yet he had wounds that didn't heal such that people could examine them and go, oh yeah, those match crucifixion wounds. So I have questions, but if flesh and blood can't inherit the kingdom of God, what kind of body even was that? And how was he eating normal people food?
It's there's a famous book by Dale Martin called The Corinthian Body, that he kind of talks about this, and a lot of scholars think that Paul is talking about some kind of spiritual body. He uses the word soma pneumatikos, like a spiritual body. I think the one outlier would be N.T. Wright, who I believe in The Resurrection of the Son of God argues that this is some kind of fleshly body, but having a spiritual, I forget, I'm not going to do it justice, but he'd be an outlier. I think a lot of scholars see that this is some kind of spiritual body, and I think maybe the Gospels are trying to put some kind of flesh on that, so to speak. But yeah, it's a good question.
Some
and then
kind of physical body, but it's just somehow without the, you know, pollution of sin. Somehow, whatever that physical corruption is, it doesn't have that.
And then don't forget the Gospels came like through the Docetist controversy, which is when there was people saying Jesus only appeared to be a human. And it looks like there's some changes that scribes made in the manuscripts during that time to kind of, there's several big text critical problems having to do with Jesus' body. So it seems kind of like there's stuff that people were like, wow, that makes it sound like he was just an appearance rather than actually raised. So maybe he ate something. Or,
because I know there's also the controversy of like, oh, anything spiritual is good, anything physical is bad. So Jesus couldn't have, you know, had physical form, or that we should overcome the physical form and da 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 da. Like, I don't want to call it Gnosticism because that's a weird label, but
you're right though.
I have questions that obviously I don't think the writers would have ever considered. They're just like, yeah, he was totally hanging out with people and like eating and no big deal. Also, he teleported, but whatever, it's fine.
Yeah.
Don't think about it.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Just don't worry about it.
I think in John, he teleports before the resurrection too. I'm trying to remember. I think they're like he gets in the boat and then they're all of a sudden back at shore. But I don't remember if that's after the resurrection or before. I'd have to look it up.
Okay. That could be. Yeah. We're running short on time, unfortunately, as much fun as I'm having. I need to be respectful of your guys' time, and I've got somewhere else I need to be here fairly shortly. So I think we'll wrap this up. This was really fun. I always like it, and I always learn things when I'm hanging out with CJ and Sheng. It was my pleasure to have you here, and I really appreciate again that the work that you're doing, and I hope there's more opportunities for us to do some of this kind of stuff in the near future. But yeah, maybe CJ, do you wanna let us know who you are and what you have coming up for anybody who's somehow stuck under a rock? Or
Hi, I'm CJ. Yeah, I dropped a video today, which is why I'm not live streaming this on my channel too, because I always drop stuff on Fridays. But yeah, was Jesus a zealot, freedom fighter? Had fun with that one. I won't give away the answer, I think, but it's probably not too crazy. Yeah, so I'm doing that. I'm doing a few videos here and there on Bart Ehrman's channel, which is kind of fun too.
I saw that. Very cool.
Yeah, I had fun in there. So yeah, so that's fun.
We didn't get to the part where Trent is quite convinced that Bart is just a terrible scholar.
Yeah, we didn't get to all their slurs about Bible scholars and
he just doesn't know what he's doing.
And that the historical Jesus scholars is basically just like women's theory or sorry,
women anything with studies,
it's all woke or something.
Just woke.
Yeah, we missed the good stuff, but anyway, videos on my channel. I think that's all I have to plug right now. Yeah.
Okay, Sheng, tell the people who you are and how they can find you, and some stuff that you've got. Let us know what you're up to.
Yeah, so I have a channel called Mindful Living. I talk about it in the beginning of the live stream, but I try to, because it's not, I'm not doing this full time, right? I have a full-time job, but I try to release a video every week or every other week. And my next project will be talking about John Lennox. So
nice. Well, that's good.
He had he had an interview on the Diary of a CEO, Stephen Bartlett. I thought I had to make a response video on that. So that'll be my next one.
Just one, or are you going to do like 4.5
no.
hours?
I think one is sufficient. I have so many other projects I want to get to. So one is sufficient. Maybe I'll touch on him in other videos again in the future, but maybe for that particular interview, I'll just make one video. I already have the draft. Just I need to make it a video. Yeah.
Okay. So people who are watching, Sheng's channel is linked in the description. Also, his playlist on the Bayesian stuff for the historicity of the resurrection. And like for my lights, I mean Brian Blaze and Chrissy Hansen and Paul Gia have talked about Bayesian analysis of history, but you've done you're like the only other person that I can think of that's really tackled this question in earnest and done a really effective job, I think, of showing all the problems and the holes and the errors made by the apologists and the maximal data people. Kind of interesting to me actually that Trent hung out with Than on that stream, all about his maximal data case. And here I watched this and find out that he's actually a minimal facts guy. So usually they don't like each other very much, but yeah. So that's interesting. But yeah, I hope you I hope you come back in the near future. It'd be great to have you back. So so for me, I'm after we get out of here, everyone's going to be redirected to Top Hats Off, where I will be reprising my recurring role as Lieutenant Viscount Vrelax on the starship Kongzi in Star Trek Endurance. So that's happening at 5 o'clock, and Top Hats Off. I'm going to be back here tomorrow night at 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific for Budget Scripture Saturday with my capable co-hosts Nitty and Dr. Tapioca Weasel. It's always a good time. So people, please, people should come back for that. And then Vish is going to be joining me for Kitty Anti-Breed next week, my Hebrew readings show, and we're going to continue reading the text of Zechariah, which is even crazier than I remember it being the first time I went through it. Guys, like seriously, if like fever dreams have nothing on the book of Zechariah, it's something else. And both you guys, Sheng and CJ, I you have an open invitation to come and join us if you ever.
If you can handle my, like, I can stumble through the text and I would actually enjoy it. I would make an idiot of myself, but I don't care.
Do it.
I don't know.
It's like super laid back.
It is. It's very laid back. So yeah, it'd be great if you're ever interested in coming out, and it's good practice too. So just let me know, text me or something, and we'll get you on the schedule. So, but Vish will be joining me this week on Thursday. We're gonna look at Zechariah, the second half of Zechariah chapter 6, which is fun because it's got mythicism stuff in it too. So,
boy,
yeah, that'll be good, eh? And then we will also be back on Friday next week to continue with Michael Jones's Conquest and Exodus apologetics, which is also stuff I like. I don't know if we lost CJ or if he just had to go.
He heard that and was like, nope, I'm out.
Oh God, I'm out. So so yeah. Oh yes. Thank you, Marin, for reminding me. I will be on Misinterpretations on Tuesday night at 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific. I think we're gonna be talking about another chapter in my latest book. So please come out for that. And yeah, I don't know. Do you guys have anything else before
One last super chat.
Oh, hey,
from Hangfishy for $5.
He's back.
He's back.
Good. All right.
My video dropped off. It's so random. My internet just dropped out. It's so weird.
Oh, really? Wow. Well, thank you for coming back to finish up.
Yeah, no worries. Are we still live? Yes, we are. Okay.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah,
I was about to start trash
go ahead
talking
and read the last super chat, Kip, and then we can just get out of here if you want.
Yeah, Richard Miller was saying.
So Richard Miller was saying he found about 200 resurrection stories. 200 resurrection stories. Did he ever organize that list by trope? Like how many featured which story element? I've not read Richard's book, or at least not all of it. I've read bits of it. So maybe you can say something?
Yeah, I think he does, if I remember. Yeah, and he has little snippets. It's very easy to kind of go through it. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I think he has a section where he kind of says which trope is which, and if I remember correctly.
Neat.
Awesome. All right. Well, then thanks again, you guys, for coming out, for hanging out with me. This was a lot of fun. This is the part where I try to find a good outro and always struggle to do it in a timely fashion. So yeah, until next time, everyone, which I guess for me will be Saturday night. Be good, stay safe, and
Hail
as
Ratma.
always, Hail Ratma and Hansigfa.